This is Stephanie with High Tower Stitching. With today's video, this is part 1, and it's another quilt front to hand stitch yo-yos onto, and they are using strips. Today I want to talk about cutting your strips, setting up your yo-yos, and then a quick review of making a yo-yo. Here are my strips of yo-yos that I've gotten finished so far. And where this came from was, if you remember, I did the other project and it had the colored strips in the front and then the yo-yos were attached. But the whole base was built and then the yo-yos were added. And that's kind of a challenge with the sewing and trying to hold it. And so I came across another way to do this and I'm giving it a try. And I'm probably going to have a part 2 because I have 2 ideas of how I'm going to put these together. I'm not making a full-size quilt. I'm just making pieces that are 42 inches long. And I cut those with the grain. That means go along the edge of the selvage and get your strips from there, because this is the way that it does not stretch. Because you're going to be sewing the yo-yos onto the strips, and you don't want to distort those too much. But here is what I have set up right now, is 2 42-inch strips, and then they are 4 inches wide. I'm going with 4 inches wide, and you can see that I have some chalk marks. There is an A row and there's a B row, and it repeats itself over and over, and it has to do with where you start at the very beginning. So if you'll look at A, it starts 2.5 inches down, and then it goes to 3.5 inches the rest of the way. And what I did, they suggested you could do an adding machine tape, but for this was going to go pretty fast because I wasn't doing long strips. So I just made a cardboard strip, and then I would just move it down, and I would put a little chalk mark on it because I knew I was going to be ready to add my flowers to it. So once I got ready, these are all I have left. And the chalk mark is where the top of your flower is, and you center it on the strip. Get your next one. There's your top. You center it on that strip. And you do that all the way down. And the A rows all have 11 yo-yos on them for this short one. And the B rows have 10 yo-yos on there. And I think I'm going to stop with, I think I've got 9 rows in all. Then that's going to make a wall hanging. And if you look at this also, before I started those, I cut them out. And then I lightly pressed the strip in half so I would know right where the center was, and that sure did make it easy as I put those marks on there. And usually when I sew these, I have them just pinned down, and that's what I had done on the big one. But for this, because they're in strips, and I went ahead and I bought a fabric glue that's permanent, and what I did was down the center I would put just a little bit of glue right there, and then I'd set the flower on it, the next flower, and then mash it. Now, I did it on my mat, and I found out that this is not thick material, and so it would bleed through a little bit. So be sure that you have it either on some paper or something so that it doesn't mess up something else you have. And the nice thing was, once I had my black strips done and folded in half and had them marked, I did pretty much all of those after the first one. Then then had it glued down. Then after that glue dried, then I was ready to start sewing. And I want to show you that I finished A, and I used an applique stitch to catch it underneath all the way down, and I'm really pleased with that. But they also suggested in one of the articles I saw that you could do a running top stitch around the inside of that instead of doing the other type of applique. So that'll just be what you like to do, or if you want to try that and see how it looks on yours. And I just chose black because that's the color my husband liked, and he said, I think those flowers would show up good on there, but you might want to pick a different color. Okay, now I'm going to start on my second row, and I've got them glued down, or you could just have them pinned down. For this demonstration, I'm using a double thread, and depending on what kind of thread you have, you can decide on one thread or a double. And so now I'm going to go in through the bottom, and I'm going to hit the bottom of the flower also. And I wouldn't be using white, I'd be using black on this one. I probably would use white on this one down here that's further. All right, and so then I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to come up, but I sort of pinch it just a little bit so that I see the roll on the very edge, and then I'm going to come up. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down, I'm going to push my nail up there, and I'm going to push this needle right into the edge, and I sort of catch from the bottom out. And all of a sudden, I have these great stitches down, pinch it, come up at an angle from the bottom, because your goal is not to see your stitching on the front unless you do that running stitch like we talked about. But you will find out this will go fast. The running stitch would go fast, because you can see actually I can talk right now, and I can take this needle and I can run it up, and I would do that all the way around. Okay, ready? Okay, but real quick on doing a yo-yo, so you don't have to look it back up. I'm using a double thread. It's not very strong, so I'm using double. And I went ahead and put that little batting flap on the end to help me catch it. I'm going to come over. I'm going to roll down with my fingers, and I'm just doing, and then I'm going to get ready to start. Now this time, I actually am using a straw, something long like a straw needle. But it doesn't matter. And I'm going to build onto that needle. And you can see how easy this is coming. I can just turn this under, and I can go. And you want it not too big and not too little. And look how many stitches. And it really doesn't matter how many you get, but that was just showing you that. And then I'm going to pull it up so the tail is out there right now. All right, I've gone all the way around, and I've made this little pouch, and I sort of just push everything around a little bit. Then I'm going to take and knot it off, so I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to take that little tag. That really was easy to catch that, and either one, and go and knot it off. Get it, my fingers here. I usually knot off about 4 times. Pretend that I did. All right. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to cut that kind of close to where that was, but don't cut your knot. And then you're ready just to pull the edges out and get your center in the center and mash it down so your pleats are there and they're laying down. And that's a reminder of how to do the yo-yo. So now we're back to the strips we're going to put together. And if you look at this, they alternate the top. So a reminder that the first one starts, the A starts 2.5 inches down, and then the B starts 3.5 inches down. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Thank you for watching. Anything that I might have forgotten or things to put in the description that may help you will be in the description. If you like this project or got something out of it, please hit subscribe and like, and comments would be great. Thank you very much.